Welcome to Boston's Back Bay. It's one of the more beautiful areas of Boston, filled with a lot of Victorian-style mansions, a lot of classic structures that are inspired by one of the most famous architects of the city, Charles Bullfinch. And today we're going to walk from Boston's Back Bay all the way to Beacon Hill. We're starting right in front of Trinity Church, which is Boston's Trinity Church, not to be confused with the Trinity Church in New York. It's also an Episcopal church here. And right next to it is actually New England's tallest skyscraper, standing at 790 feet tall. I'm Ariel, you're watching Urbanist, and let's explore Boston's Back Bay. Today is going to be a wandering. We're going to wander around these two neighborhoods that are very picturesque in their own right. The Back Bay is picturesque for having an actual grid system, which is unique in Boston. And then we're going to walk through Beacon Hill, which is unique for being built on a hill and having tiny little winding streets. So join me on this wander, and there's not going to be that much history, so feel free to ask me any questions whatsoever. We're in between a few awesome structures here in Back Bay. As I mentioned, we are in front of Trinity Church, but we're also right by the Boston Public Library, the central one, built by Charles McKim. Hello, Ruby. Is this Fenway Day or did I miss it? Fenway's closed, unfortunately. I wish I can go to it, but no, unfortunately it's closed. No Fenway for this trip. I grew up north in Exeter, New Hampshire. Have you ever been there? No, I haven't been to New Hampshire. Hello, Ramey. Is the library open? Only for use if you're working on your laptop. So they don't have, the library is not open for tourism nor for browsing books or taking out books. But look how gorgeous this library is. Wow. So this is one of the three main types of architecture you would see here in Boston. Boston has lots of federal, which we're going to see a little bit later with Beacon Hill. Lots of Beaux Arts, or Beaux-Arts, made here by Charles McKim. He's of New York fame. He worked a lot with Stanford White. They were in an architectural firm together, McKim, Mead, and White. And then the third style is brutalism, which we actually see over there with the parking garage. And I doubt we're going to come across brutalism in this journey, because that is more in other areas of Boston. And of course we have your international style buildings that cropped up in the 1970s, like this one, the John Hancock Tower. So funny story about John Hancock. I didn't cover this on a live video. Actually, I did in the haunted tour. We saw central burying ground or granary burying ground with the second largest gravestone in the entire yard is very phallic looking. It's an obelisk but rounder on the top, and that was built by John Hancock, who was a founding father and very, very audacious person. Very elaborate dressed, always very wearing lots of awesome flowy clothing and lots of luxurious carriages, and his gravestone reflects that. And when he signed the Declaration of Independence, it was a massive signature. He did that partly because he was the president of the Continental Congress at that time, the person who was presiding over the Continental Congress, but also because he was a very audacious person. And I think it's rather fitting that they end up calling the tallest skyscraper in all of New England after his honor, John Hancock. So what is the grand building to the left of you? So this is the Boston Public Library, John Hancock Tower, Trinity Church. So what I'm going to do is, I'll actually go across this street. Okay, we're gonna go all around and then we're gonna go back to this church, which is really cool looking. Hello, Magnus. Thank you for tagging your friend, Matthias. Benji, hello. Kate, hello. Ruby, what's been your best part of Boston so far? I really love the Freedom Trail. I'm excited to explore the Back Bay, so ask me that question again tomorrow when I do my last broadcast here. But I really love the Freedom Trail. It was such an awesome experience learning American history. It looks deserted. It is quiet in this area. We're gonna see a street that's a little bit more vibrant. Newbury Street, which is the ritzy area of Boston. So Kay asked, how are my feet after last night? They were a little bit sore in the morning, but I'm luckily back, alive and kicking. I am excited to keep on exploring. And this grand building, I don't know. So we're wandering around, so if anyone does know any information or is a very quick Googler, please let us know the buildings we pass by because there's a lot of historic ones. But admittedly, after doing a very long stream of live streams yesterday, I end up not having enough time to do specific research. And when it comes to these neighborhoods, they don't cover usually big parts of American history, and thus sometimes it takes longer time to research the stories that are a little bit harder to find, the stories of merchants, of certain aristocrats, the stories of the architecture sometimes is a little bit more time intensive. Hence, that's why we're just wandering around. However, this church is absolutely gorgeous. It dates back to 1877. And it's rather kind of like a combination of Romanesque with Gothic. Romanesque in the sense that it is a little bit flatter, as we saw in many of the churches in Rome last year when I visited. But Gothic because of all this kind of brown stone that they put in the front. And this is Copley Plaza. Yes, it is. Do they have electric scooters? I've seen a few, but very, very few. I'm not entirely sure what the scooter situation here in Boston is. But there are bikes. And Ruby says, I've done a great tour with Boston. Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. The cool thing about these wanderings, which I call wandering around, meandering, strolling, sauntering, there's many words for it, is that you get to learn history as you're walking through it. Maybe not by reading a book or an article or watching a documentary, but you get to learn about history by observing it as you're walking around. Let's take a closer look. Here's John Hancock Tower. So John Hancock Tower was designed by I.M. Pei. Now, I.M. Pei is one of the most famous architects in American history. He died just about 2 years ago, a little bit less than 2 years ago, at the age of 99, if I recall correctly. Oh, he was 101. Please remind me what exactly how old he was. But he was very, very, in a very late age. And he was known for brutalism, actually. In New York City, he designed the Silver Towers in Greenwich Village. But this one, he decided to take a different approach. At first, Boston actually wanted something more towards his brutalist sensibilities here for the biggest tower in New England. So you can imagine if I Am Pei did decide to go with that design suggestion, imagine we would be looking at a very, very different tower. We would be looking at a tower that is much more noticeable. However, I Am Pei decided against it because the city already, many people in the city, the public and other public officials were a little bit worried that a brutalist style tower was going to be a blight, or some other type of tower that was a little bit thicker in terms of its architecture and its framing would have been a rather blight on the skyline and limited these beautiful sights of Trinity Church and these other more Art Deco / kind of Beaux-Arts inspired high-rises. Thus, he decided to go for something that was just pure glass, something that would just reflect the city rather than be imposing upon it. And this is why the reflection is so clear, so much so that you can actually see me there in the distance. Right here, yeah. Look at that. Now, yeah, Don says lots of history about the early years of Trinity Church and Hancock Tower. Yeah, there was a lot of problems with the windows that were falling down, which sounds very terrifying. Well, I Am Pei was 102, thank you, 102 years old. 102 years old, I Am Pei. Passed away in May 2019. He lived a very long life. Now, I Am Pei is a very interesting architect because he was very embracive of brutalism. But he also loved glass and steel. And another famous building of his, probably the most famous structure of his, is the pyramid, the glass pyramid in Paris, in the middle of the Louvre, which I also covered last year. If you want to see a little bit more information on that, it's also on YouTube. That one also reflects the Louvre, rather than kind of being an imposing structure upon it. Most of the structure is underground. Instead of this being underground, of course, it's above ground, but it just reflects it, everything. So it's really beautiful. Look how it reflects this historic skyscraper. Sam, yeah, sure. I'll show you the buildings. Hold up. Don't worry, patient. We're taking our time with these videos. The buildings will be shown. When am I going back to New York City? This week. Tomorrow, I'm heading back. Gorgeous blue sky today. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Kate. Hello, Flore SJ. Hello, Andrew. Hisami, nice to see you here. Well, thank you for letting us know about I Am Pei. And B. Griffin says, oh, good that I Am Pei decided for glass. Oh, look at this little garden. My dad lives in Boston, says Yvette. What's for food today? Stay tuned. Beacon Hill, I might cover one amazing bakery. '1877, though it looks much older. And I think they did that on purpose. They kind of wanted to go for a Gothic cathedral that you would find in the middle of England. Or, you know, more Romanesque. It's kind of a combination of both. Buongiorno! So, the way you can tell if it's truly Romanesque or if it's truly Gothic is not a true Gothic cathedral. So here, we see the arches. You see these arches? They are round. These are square, so there's no arches here. So whenever you see rounded arches, they are Romanesque. Hence, they can't hold too much weight. The structure is a little bit taller. Probably they're using some type of steel framing or something else. I'm not entirely sure the details. But they're using some other technique that did not exist in medieval times in order to make it a little bit taller. And that's why it's Romanesque. If it was a pointed arch, then it would be Gothic. Beacon Street. Yes, we're going to pass by Beacon Street. And Bookish Girl, we're also going to see the Cheers bar. At least we're going to see the front of it. And I took a little video inside of it, so I'll show you how it looks inside as well. Oh, look, it has like a cool looking vent.
Oh, okay.
I never saw a church with a awesome vent like that. Oh, that's fascinating. It's medieval style as well. Yeah, it kind of looks medieval. All right, let's cross the street. And we're gonna kind of in the middle of Back Bay. So we're gonna go this way, and then we're gonna curve around Newberry Street and go to Beacon Hill. Jay Bear, good to see you too. Hey Janice, nice to see you here. They have legal cannabis in Massachusetts. Yes, they do. Recreationally, I'm not 100% sure. Can you buy recreational cannabis? Is it legal to people out of state? Let me know. I'm very curious about it. I actually didn't look into it. One second you see old architecture, the next second you see new architecture. It says Dwayne, yes. That's the really cool part about Boston. But unlike New York, where new architecture kind of is gigantic and very imposing on the skyline, and the older architecture kind of just like is tiny compared to the massive skyscrapers around it. It's not so complementary. But here in Boston, it seems that they really went out of their way and worked with the architects to make the old architecture complementary with the new architecture. And hence that's why we have structures like Ian Pay's Hancock Tower with Trinity Church. And we're gonna see, as you're walking through Boston, you gotta look up, because there's always this awesome combination of old and new, and they're in this interesting positioning that makes me wonder as I look up. I'm like, wow, did they really think? Did they do this on purpose? Because it looks like it. So what is Back Bay? Well, Back Bay used to be a literal bay in the back. And I'll show you. Let's get to this church. This one's really cool. This one's the Old South Church as opposed to Old North Church, right behind Paul Revere's Ride statue. Susu sends a super sticker. Oh, thank you so much, Susu. This Copley stop on the Green Line. The Green Line is partly like a streetcar. Or it is a streetcar, it just runs underground and above ground. Look at this. Wow. we just saw it. The Hancock building is 790 feet tall, almost 800. Tallest building in New England. What is New England? New England, if you're not aware, if you're not from the US, New England comprises of the states of Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, and Rhode Island. And let me know if I'm missing any of them, but I think I got all of them. New York is not New England, even though it's very close. New York borders New England, and New York is part of the mid-Atlantic region of the US, which encompasses Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey, and there's a few others like Delaware and Maryland, I think. Can you tell us the name of the church? Yeah, Old South Church. Old South Church in the Back Bay. And Connecticut, thank you so much. Connecticut is also New England, yep. So Connecticut borders the mid-Atlantic. Jim, what are you saying I didn't pass?
You like margaritas.
Oh, the marathon bombing site. Yeah, that's a very sad tale. I would recommend watching another video on that. I really don't cover those type of stories, especially if it's so recent. Here is Newberry Street, the beautiful thoroughfare in the middle of the Back Bay. So Ruby says recreational weed is legal, just need ID. Oh, Ruby, interesting. Interesting, Ruby. All right, let me see if I can find an old map of Boston. Yes, here we have it. So, this street is very filled with people. But if we were to go back to Puritan times, 1600s, early 1700s, before the Revolution, all this street and everyone on it would be on the water. Yep, this entire neighborhood was underwater because Boston used to be tiny. Boston was about 800 acres big, which is 2 Central Parks. And Back Bay is literally the back of the bay. Now, they initially built a dam in order to start filling in the Back Bay. And you see that dam right over here on the top of the map. You see that green line? That's the dam. And it was adjacent to a hill. So as the bay started, the tide started going down, the problem with Back Bay is that suddenly the area started getting very stagnant. And that means that it was getting marshy, the water was not circulating, and when water doesn't circulate, whatever remains of animals or excretions or garbage or dead plant matter and fungus started just accumulating in the Back Bay area. And the smell just reeked all around Boston. Well, they had to change things up. And thus they were more serious about filling in the Back Bay. And that's when they started filling in the land and these very stagnant, marshy waters and decided to convert the Back Bay into a proper area for mansions. Now, we're going to go a little bit soon to Beacon Hill, which quite wasn't the ideal of building mansions. It's a gorgeous area, but initially Beacon Hill was going to be the area of mansions, the neighborhood of mansions. But Beacon Hill, due to its size and due to its proximity to Boston, had to become much more dense. Back Bay had the chance to build these much larger mansions. So let me go a little bit further up on Newberry. And then we're gonna see the mansions of Back Bay soon. Now I'm on the Maps app, so I can know how to orient myself in Lisa. Yes, we're in Back Bay. Back Bay is going to be very easy to orient yourself because it is a grid. Unlike many other parts of Boston, which predates any building of grids. So this resembles a lot of like Park Slope in Brooklyn. This resembles Georgetown in Washington, nearby to Washington, D.C. It resembles many of these kind of areas that were developed heavily in the mid-1800s for high-end residential. Yeah, lots of stuff here in Newbury. It's a very nice street. So lots of stores. Also reminds me of Brooklyn Heights. Could that be Connecticut brownstone? Great question. I don't know. Though when I was reading about the Back Bay, I do recall them mentioning getting stones from Connecticut. Ruby says, Ariel, encourage us to ask again if you missed it. Yes, if I miss a question, feel free to ask again. Lori says, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, Lori. It does remind me of New York City. It does, yes. Is Lush and the small record store still open? I don't know. Let's pass by it. Let me know if we do pass by it, and I'll point it out. Are you currently close to the major universities, Christina? Kind of. We're about like a 40 minute walk away. There's major universities actually everywhere. We're close to Northwestern, which is, I think, only about a 10-15 minute walk away. Harvard, MIT should be a little bit closer, around a 15 minute walk away as well. We fly into Boston every year on our way to Maine, and we never stop to enjoy the cool city. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Maine is gorgeous, but I highly recommend stopping in Boston. It is a very nice area. Look at this. I just absolutely love the architecture. Highly recommend it. It's very nice. Northeastern, thank you for the correction. Northeastern University. Am I having cannoli today? I think I am. I really love that cannoli from Bova's. I was so blown away. I'm going to return to the North End and have also another slice of Regina's. Udis says that he loves Maine. Outside dining only, or is it inside? There's inside dining, yes. I am personally not partaking in inside dining, but there is inside dining. Some restaurants are allowing space, some restaurants are not really caring about it. Did I get any sleep? Yeah, I did. I had a very nice sleep. Zara always has a line.
As it stands against the wall like the drip, drip, drip.
You see new buildings in Newbury, really? Interesting. I'm very curious. Is this downtown Boston? I'm not sure if you would consider this downtown. It is Back Bay, so I don't think it's considered downtown. There was a lounge singer, yeah. Indeed. The only downside of Boston is that these sidewalks are pretty damn narrow for the amount of businesses that are around. So it gets pretty packed, even if it's a pandemic.
So last minute, yeah. That's weird.
It looks clean. It really does. It really is clean. By all means, yeah.
But like every couple of months,
I see there is a big public park bench test. Ooh, Elisa, we will do a bench test in the next road. So we're passing through Newbury first, but next is going to be Commonwealth. And there we're going to test the benches of Commonwealth. It looks like Joralemon Street in Brooklyn, says Cynthia. Yes, I agree, which is located in Brooklyn Heights. So very, very similar architecture. And also the businesses, the style of businesses. There's businesses on the ground level and there's businesses on the basement level. No cigarette butts and everywhere like in New York City. No, not that many cigarette butts. I've seen plenty of smoking here in other areas of Boston, but no. People are not throwing it in the middle, at least in this street. I hear a busker. Yeah. The lights here, no, it's never changed. People just walk whenever the cars stop passing. Oh, there it goes. Now it changes. Pink Floyd, he's playing Pink Floyd, says Ruby and Lori. Yeah. What song by Pink Floyd, do you know? It's so gorgeous. I am amazed by this street. And the leaves are already falling, so it's that perfect fall vibes. Cynthia would live here. Wish You Were Here, he was playing. Oh, yeah, that's such a lovely song. Very bittersweet. I think Pink Floyd, the main composer of the band, wrote that after one of the bandmates died. Such a beautiful song. One says, please consider pressing that heart button or like button for Ariel. Yeah, definitely do. If anyone wants me to focus on anything, show you any details, do let me know. We're just admiring architecture. Elisa says, me and another lady would know the street you are now. We are in Newberry Street. If anyone could write that down in the comments. Newberry Street. Let me see if I have any maps. I think I do. No, I don't. However, what I will show you is what the Back Bay used to look like. So this is what the Back Bay used to look like when they were starting to fill in with marshes. And then here's an aerial view of the Back Bay. The skyscrapers are behind us, so we're walking through the streets, Newbury, and then we're going to soon walk through Commonwealth, which is a lower rise. Susu, thank you so much for the stars. Susu has given stars and super chats. Thank you so much, Susu. I appreciate doing both platforms. So kind of you. Berry or Bury? Let's double check. I'll show you the street sign too. Have I seen any of the Wahlbergs? No. Donnie is nowhere to be seen, and I asked Mark if he wanted to hang out to show me around one of the neighborhoods, but he's busy filming. So no, I couldn't get in contact with the Wahlbergs, unfortunately. Newbury. And we're crossing Gloucester Road. How's the weather in Boston? It is it's like light sweater weather during the daytime. Once it gets into night, you might need a jacket. But it is about 59 degrees, 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Donna says, I saw Ben the rats. What are you referring to? Are you referring to the rat we saw in the North End? Is it more expensive to live in Boston than New York? Good question. I don't know. And B. Griffin says it's pronounced Gloucester. Gloucester, thank you. Gloucester. I don't know what is the price comparison. I would assume it might be around the same prices, but you might get more space. That is my assumption. If anyone knows for sure, please let us know in the comments. This neighborhood, I bet, is pretty expensive. Probably among the most expensive. Oh, a coffee house. Nice. Lorraine gives a super chat. Thank you so much, Lorraine. I appreciate it. Yay, Lorraine gives a super chat. Thank you, Lorraine. Susu as well. And Lorraine and many other people who've given super chats and extra PayPal contributions. Uh-oh. So I didn't think we would bump into a brutalist building in the Back Bay amongst all these Victorian era brownstones and gorgeous high-end residential buildings. I did not imagine we would bump into a brutalist building, but nonetheless, Boston doesn't fail to give us some brutalists next to our gorgeous 18th century, 19th century architecture. And this is the Boston Architectural College. Interesting. So the architects, some of them who might still continue after graduating and working in the city, are studying in this building, a brutalist building. Jane says, where did you park your car? I parked, I didn't park my car in Harvard Yard, if that's what you're asking. No, I'm not using a car. I got here through walking. It's pretty easy to walk in this area. It's very close distance to historic Boston. All right, so let's go one more block down Newbury, and then we're gonna go to Commonwealth. See the much larger mansions. Architects are learning in the place of penance, says B. Griffin. Is Auchie Way closed? Can we see the outside of Fenway? Fenway, unfortunately, is closed, and I'm not sure how far away we are from Fenway, but we will be going to Commonwealth. Hey, Brendan from Sheffield, UK. Welcome. just case as you were talking about mixing building styles. Now we see it. Yeah, indeed. Sometimes with these historic districts, you wouldn't think that they would do a very different type of new building style. It's a nice brunch place. Trident Cafe has a very good bookstore. Oh, interesting. Ooh, thank you for the recommendation. So, Trident Bookstore, interesting. Cool. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Hi, from Russia. I can't read the Russian language, so feel free to let me know how to pronounce your name. Thank you for tuning in. Isabel, sí, yo puedo comentar un poco en español. Gracias por mirando. Estamos ahora en una área histórico de Boston que era creado mayormente durante los 1800 con arquitectura de mansiones y también vivienda bien de clase bien alta. We're walking through Boston's Back Bay, built mostly in the 1800s with very high-end living. Puede preguntarme cualquier cosa en español. So this is Trident Bookstore. Hey, bookish horse girl, you understood Spanish? That's so cool. I'm glad you know Spanish. Mónica dice, sí, vas a Beacon Hill por pasar por la panadería Tate. Sí, yo ya probé Tate, me encantó. Y sí, vamos a pasar por Tate. Yo voy a mencionarlo porque es riquísimo y más seguro vamos a comer algo ahí. Yeah, we're gonna pass soon through Beacon Hill. 82 people watching on Facebook. Oh, welcome. Is there underground in Boston? Yes, there is a subway in Boston. Here in Boston, they also call it a subway, like New York. And it's actually a very interesting subway. There's buses that run underground, and there's streetcars that run underground, and then there's, of course, rapid transit, aka subway, aka tube or metro, that also is here. That's all within one system. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Oh, a taco truck. Look at that. How are the rents in Boston? Very expensive. This area, just like New York. Hi from the UK. Hello, Lucy. We have the TRA. Oh, Brendan. Yeah, people here call it the T. And actually, that's the official name now.
I thought she lived in like South. I mean, oh my gosh, my very good luck. Sorry.
So let's cross the street. Let's go to Commonwealth. So that was Newbury, and we're going to Commonwealth now. So we just saw the shopping area, and now let's go to the beautiful park-lined street. Bolsu, please correct me if I mispronounce your name. Bolsu says, I'm always live. Yes, I am. And, well, not always, but I go live every 1 p.m. for this particular trip. Otherwise, it's on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Ooh, alleyway. Bookish Girl says it's hard to understand Spanish when people talk too fast. Indeed it is. Same thing in English. I think that's why I have a lot of international viewers. I take my time with speaking. I like to be as clear as possible. Take my sweet time, just like when I walk. Also, when it comes to speaking. And I've seen other videos online and people usually speak so fast. Even I, as an English speaker, sometimes can't really capture everything that they're saying. Have you passed many hotels on my walks? There are hotels, yes. There's a few in the historic area that are really cool, including the Omni Parker House, which is the haunted hotel. Otherwise, you will find hotels everywhere around the city, including this area. And unlike other cities in, say, Europe, where hotels tend to be just in the more of the office areas, here that's not quite the case. There's historic hotels, or hotels in historic buildings. So let me point this out, actually. This should be a part of the Big Dig project. Or no, it's not. It's not, no. Potentially we'll see part of the Big Dig project soon. You might want to go to the middle of Commonwealth. Yeah, we're gonna do that soon. There's a road here in the middle right now. Tagalog has Spanish words from 300 years of Spanish rule. Yes. Kamusta ka? Mangdama Apo. I haven't spoken Tagalog in a while, but I know a few words. Mahal kita. But yeah, Tagalog, which is the Filipino language, has a lot of Spanish words and some English words in it. Elisa says, I understand you perfectly. Your pronunciation is impeccable with a bit of a New York accent. Oh yeah. Wider sidewalk on now. Oh yeah, I feel at peace. Oh, I love wide sidewalks. Sometimes walking in narrow sidewalks is like a little bit claustrophobic. At least I feel that way. I like, you know, I'm a New Yorker, so I'm okay with it generally, but it just doesn't feel as leisure. I don't feel like I could be peacefully strolling around when there's too narrow of a sidewalk, no matter how beautiful the place is. I feel like I have to go fast because I don't like walking slowly directly behind people either. Let me know, what were your thoughts about narrowed sidewalks? Do you enjoy walking on them, or do you try to find the best emptier streets or more wider streets? It's clean and beautiful, and yep, and all gridded. Thank you for clarifying, B. Griffin and Robert. It's clean and beautiful. Yes, it is. And yes, I think the North End is much cheaper. Yes, the North End is probably a much better, much more affordable place to stay and to buy food. There's scaffolding everywhere. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna find scaffolding in anywhere in Boston or New York City, but there's less here, which is actually interesting. There's less scaffolding here than in New York City. Because I assume they don't skimp out on construction, judging by a house like this, a mansion like this. Look at the house with the green on it. Oh, I will. Which one were you referring to? I'll point it out soon. Bookish, am I staying at Airbnb? Yes, I am. And this is a house. I'm not sure if it's a guest house or some sort of house for a university. It's called the Burridge House. Let me know. Seems like someone in their early 20s. Seems like a student because she has a large backpack that came out of it. So it might be something associated with the university, if anyone knows. Brady lived in this neighborhood? Oh, cool. Is he still with Giselle Bundchen? So are they still living here in the Back Bay? I'm not sure if they separated. So Newbury, which we walked up, is this way. It's this next street. And now let's cross the street. So Tom Brady and Giselle both moved. Interesting. All right, I gotta take a water break. Boston reminds me a little bit about London. Yeah, I know what you mean. It also reminds me of the neighborhood of Prati, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, which had a lot of like wider streets. It was very gridded, and the buildings were taller. They were about 7 stories tall, 8 stories tall. So yeah, it does give you that vibe. It gives me those vibes as well. It also gives me the vibes that you would see in Paris, but of course Paris is a lot more uniform architecture than here. So 1899, the Burge Mansion is from 1899. Oh, thank you for letting us know. And there's a bench. Yeah, we'll be testing a bench. There's a lot of benches to choose from on this avenue, which is nice. But let me drink some water first before I continue walking around. How's the weather now? It's sweater weather. Some people are not wearing sweaters, and I see some people even wearing shorts, and I see some women wearing skirts. I don't know how they're doing it, but for me, I feel comfortable with the jean jacket right now. But after about 5 p.m., it starts getting pretty damn chilly, and I prefer wearing a cardigan as well, so I prefer wearing 2 layers. And that's what I'm doing with my choice of layering. So I recommend bring layers if you're visiting Boston in October. And layers will be very, very good, because if you bring one big jacket, you might get very hot in like 3 p.m., 2 p.m., 1 p.m. And then it will be cozy at like 6 p.m., but then you don't have a in-between. And that's why I have my cardigan in my backpack. Lisa says, sorry, Ariel, I'm so happy today. Oh yeah, so glad. I'm so glad you're happy today. I'm glad you are. That's so awesome. Lisa, hearts for you for being so happy. And I love your style, your glasses and everything. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Dublin is wet, wet, wet. I can't wait to go to Dublin. But I'm preparing myself mentally for all the rain. And I was looking for a Puerto Rican restaurant in Boston just to identify any Puerto Rican neighborhood. I don't think there's any. Is there? There could be at least one, but as far as I read, the Hispanic population here is pretty low compared to other cities, especially compared to New York and New Jersey, and Connecticut as well. Connecticut has a pretty sizable Puerto Rican population in New Haven, and Dominicans as well. But here, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think there's a big Puerto Rican population. I think the demographics outside of Europeans is, I saw a lot of Chinese, and I think they're mostly students. And I've seen a lot of Indians, and I think they're mostly students as well. Or associated with students or associated with the university, so maybe professors as well. Actually, we have a large Brazilian population. Oh, thank you for letting us know, Bookish. So Brazilians are here. Okay, interesting. ¿Hasta cuándo te quedas? Yo voy a quedarme aquí hasta mañana. Y voy a hacer un video mañana a la 1 p.m. y me aseguro, sí, un video más. Y voy a hacer un video también más por la tarde. I'm staying here tomorrow, and you're going to see a video at 1 p.m. It's going to be rainy, and I'm going to have a lot of baggage on me, so I'm not entirely sure what I could do. If anyone has suggestions for something that doesn't either require too much walking, or I could be done where I can drop off my bag, do let me know in the comments. And let me take one more swig of water, and then we'll walk around a little bit more. It's gonna be a longer walk, so this video is probably gonna be about an hour longer, because we gotta get to Beacon Hill, and just wait for it. You think this is beautiful? Beacon Hill has some of the most photographed streets of all of America. Yeah, it's like Instagram heaven. And we're gonna see the Gramercy Park of Boston. Oh. Gimbal. Oh, cool. Are you another Walker video creator? He says, you say I should go to Sheffield in the UK. Oh, trust me. I am 100% going to every single town in the UK. Mark my words. I am 100% going to all around the UK. I love British culture. I am just obsessed with the British accent. I love British food. The British people are amazing. British humor is amazing. I think I'll talk about that maybe in another broadcast, and you'll learn more about my love for Britain whenever I go back. But yeah, that's why I feel very good in Boston, because to me it reminds me a whole lot of London. All right, now time to go back on walking. I feel like being here, says Ronald. Oh, so glad. Saludos, Ed. Tengo muchas personas mirando en español. Yo hablo mayormente inglés cuando hago estos videos, pero puede preguntarme cualquier cosa en español. Yo puedo también apuntar la cámara en cualquier dirección y tú quieres ver un detalle. Y no soy un nativo de Boston, pero he viajado aquí por las pasadas semanas. Se puede preguntarme cualquier cosa de viajando aquí en Boston. I mostly speak English in my broadcasts, though I'm always happy to speak Spanish. And if anyone speaks another language, we have people here watching from all around the world, so they can always translate. Feel free to ask me any questions about traveling to Boston. And here we have a bench. So, ladies and gentlemen, Commonwealth, very reminiscent of Ocean Parkway and Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, but way more ritzy. These houses are mansions are about twice the size. This is like if Fifth Avenue mansions were on Brooklyn's Ocean Parkway. That's basically what we have here. But we have a bench. And what happens when one sees a bench? What is the urbanist philosophy? Let me know in the comments. When one sees a bench, what do you do? What do you do? It's a very important question, because this highlights what the show is all about. The show is not about just giving you the quick hot tips about travel. This show is about slow travel. It's about being in the moment. And the best way to be in the moment is to sit on the bench and test it. See how good the bench is. How good is this bench? The location. So this is the bench review segment of the live video. The location is gorgeous. We gotta start making a criteria for bench critiques. Location, 10 out of 10. Great location, 10 out of 10. People watching. I don't see that many people, but the people who have passed seem pretty pleasant. Nothing so special. No offense to Bostonians, but it's no Soho in terms of fashion, or it's no Union Square in terms of craziness. So I would give people watching maybe like a 7 out of 10. But with the bench itself, it's too low. This bench is like half. Like, I'm a 6-foot guy and I feel like going like this. Maybe it's good for stretching, but I like my benches to be just a little bit taller. And if it's a little bit taller, I can stay here reading for hours. But I would get very sore back if I were here reading for like 40 minutes. So the bench, despite it being in a gorgeous location, gets a 5 out of 10. That is Ariel's bench review, the Urbanist bench review for today. Let's continue walking. How's the sitting wood? Okay, it's very soft. It's very soft. Very soft. So that's another criteria. How's the texture of the bench? It's very soft. It's actually very comfy. They have a nice curvature here, which is good for your backside. I think the only problematic part is it's a bit too short. It might, if they just have one more block, then it'll be perfect. But another positive is there's many great benches out there in the world, but sometimes they just have bird poo, which is no good. This one is bird poo free, and most of them that we're gonna pass by, I think they're the same. So that it gets a very good rating. It's very low on bird poo, so you're very bird poo safe. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed that segment. Let's continue with our journey and head over to a place where everyone knows your name. If you know where I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. Who's this guy? He's a very stern fellow. His name is Domingo F. Sarmiento, presidente of Argentina, diplomático, escritor y padre de los argentinos, la sistema educativa de Argentina y amigo de del país americana. Interesante. So this is our Argentinian president. His name is Domingo Sarmiento, and he was a diplomat. And it seems like he lived here. Interesting. There's an Argentinian president for a statue here. So for my Argentinians watching here, please let me know. Do you recognize this man? Para los argentinos que están mirando esta emisión, ¿tú reconoces este hombre, el presidente del 1888? 1888. So he was a president during the mid-1800s. So Mónica, oh, cool. Mónica says, sí, Sarmiento creó el sistema educativo en Argentina. Es padre de la educación. So translation is Mónica, fellow Argentinian, says that he is the father of education for Argentina. He started the education system in Argentina. And that's interesting because we are in basically the educational capital, one of the two educational capitals of the Western world. The other one being Cambridge/Oxford, and and this one being here in Boston, filled with all these universities. And it seems like that education system has been exported out to other countries. And whenever I speak to Argentinians, they know their history, they know their architecture. So let me translate quickly that in Spanish before I keep walking. Se ve como este uno de los capitales de educación en el mundo occidental. Se ve que Boston ha exportado la educación y sus valores de educación a otros países. Y cada vez que yo conozco un argentino, siempre saben mucho de historia y literatura y de muchos otros tópicos. So, yo estoy inclinado a creer que Argentina también coge su educación bien serio. All right, let's continue walking around. He dedicated his life to education. Oh, very cool. Hello to Belgium from Boston. Welcome. Oh, I'm proper Bostonian. You live in Belgium now. Interesting. Oh, are you from Boston? Sorry, you're saying hello to someone who's watching from Belgium. So let me zigzag out here so we can see a little bit more mansions on the outside. Oh, I can walk on the grass. Interesting. Let's walk on. Wait, there might be dog food, so let's avoid walking in the grass. Am I staying in a hotel or Airbnb? I'm staying in an Airbnb. Been here in Boston for 60 years. Ooh, cool. Proper Bostonian. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do I watch telenovelas? No, I do not. I do not watch telenovelas, though I am aware of the style that they have. And I can do a very good telenovela voice in Spanish. It's one of my best impersonations that I can do. How's the crime in Boston? I heard it's really bad. Oh, I'm very curious where you're hearing this. Are you judging based on movies? Because a lot of people who watch Bostonian movies, they take place in decades where crime was worse, but also neighborhoods where crime is worse. It's not really indicative of what you'll experience as a tourist. I feel very safe in Boston. And yet, at night, yes, as you saw yesterday, There are places that are a bit empty, but I still feel safe. I don't feel a sense of danger, and judging by all these touristy areas, it's okay. I think, when you think about the crime, the safety level of a city, you have to, at least what I do, is consider, wait a minute, cities are big. Cities by their nature have all classes, and they also by their nature have all different types of vibes. So every city has most cities, especially in the US and Europe, have very rich areas, and they also have very poor areas. And thus, usually, as a tourist, you might not be visiting the very poor areas where there tends to be more crime. And this is not a judgment upon any type of income bracket. That just happens to be the case throughout all history. Poor areas tend to have more crime. And that said, if you're traveling to a city and you know that crime tends to happen in poor areas, I think you'll be okay as a tourist. Now, granted, there are cities where there is crime that happens in all areas, and there's also crime sometimes that are targeted to tourists. That's not the case here in Boston. That's not also the case in New York, and that's not the case in a bunch of other cities in Europe. So, yeah. I think that's why I would recommend being a little bit more discerning for anyone who watches the news or watches a lot of movies. It's understandable to make a quick judgment on it, but be a little bit more discerning. It really will help out a lot with feeling a little bit safer when traveling and more confident. Are there more ghosts here than NYC? There's a lot of haunted history here. So yes, there's a lot of haunted history here. More than in New York City. New York City is way bigger. So I think New York City just has Boston beat because they're bigger. But there's a bigger concentration of ghost stories in Boston. Bella says, I felt very safe in Boston out all hours of the night, even taking the T. Yep, exactly. And you explored also outside of Boston proper. And even walking around, it doesn't seem to just be, granted I am a male of lighter skin, 6 feet, so that is the experience I'm having. Of course everyone has different experiences, but from my observation I have seen people of all skin tones and both the genders walking around. And of course I've seen LGBT also walk around freely, so that's been my observation. It's beautiful looking here, and LOL High says, that's why I watch channels that walk. Yes, walking shows on YouTube and Facebook do a really great service. I'm not just tooting my own horn, but my friend's Action Kid, there's Nomadic Ambience, 4K Wanderer, a few others. A few others might be watching. Manny Explorers, I know, is another one that do a great service by showing people the real, unedited walk of a city. And Chris, yes, if you want to see Newberry Street, you watch the replay. That's what we did in our first part. Boston has elegance. New York City does not. New York City does have elegance. It's just Boston. Boston is very elegant. As New Yorkers like to say, it's mad elegant. It's mad elegant. Do I know New York City Walking Show? I've heard of him. I've seen his stuff. I think he is Bangladeshi or Indian. It's really cool to see someone of that origin do walking shows in New York City. I think that's a cool perspective to see New York City from. So yeah, I haven't met him yet, but I've seen his show briefly. Felix says, great job. My pleasure, Felix. So It's April says, I know people have left Boston due to racism in certain areas. Everyone's different, yeah. Yeah, that has been historically an issue with Boston. I haven't had the opportunity to get into that history, Maybe we'll talk a little bit about it at Beacon Hill because it has a little bit of African American history, or actually a lot of African American history. But that has been an issue in Boston's history. I think it should be better now, but oh no, I'll let the Bostonians speak. Here's another statue. Oh, New York Walking Show is from Canada. Oh, cool. Okay. Who's this guy? His name is Samuel Eliot Morrison, 1887 to 1976, and he was a sailor and a historian. Oh, cool. Samuel Eliot Morrison. It's Talia, by the way. Thank you so much, Talia, for tuning in. And New York Walking Show is from Bangladesh, not Canada. Okay. You're walking to historic Beacon Hill. Yes, I am. And we're gonna go to a bar where everyone knows your name. Cue the music. They did something interesting here. They put fake fungus or fake moss on the rock, made out of a stone, a copper. He went to Harvard. Yeah, interesting. Oh, he went to Harvard. Lucy says, just hit that like button. Oh, cool, Lucy. Go to Puerto Rican Veterans Memorial in South End. What? There is a Puerto Rican monument here in Boston? Oh, interesting. Marie, thanks for letting us know. If I missed your question, always feel free to ask me again. As long as it's about history, travel, or food. I don't answer questions about politics or too personal questions or current news if it's not travel related. Anything else? Travel, food, culture? I'm down. Must have been a porting guy, most likely a local. Seems like they might be commemorating locals here on Commonwealth Avenue. Gotta have some food. Yeah, we're gonna have one bite in Beacon Hill. Hi, Oliver. Nice to see you here. Did I visit Boston Common? Yes, it was my very first video, or second video in Boston. Check that out. The Freedom Trail, Part 1. Okay, now it's getting chilly. Now it's time for a cardigan. Wow. Greetings from Hartford. Oh, welcome, Oliver. From another fellow New England state, Connecticut. We have roving gangs of bikers, bicyclists. Wow, I'm just amazed by the architecture here. What's the one thing you can't miss out when visiting Boston? Emiliano? Oh, Emily. Emily is by far the Freedom Trail. Do the Freedom Trail. It's such an awesome way to see all the major historical sites in Boston in almost one entire walk. You could do it if you're really good at walking for long distances. You can easily do it in one day, which is maybe a 4-hour walk, maybe a little bit less. Depends on how fast you go. But you can easily split it into 2 days and really enjoy all the sites and go to all the different museums. Do the Freedom Trail. That's the number one thing I would recommend. And obviously, if you're watching my show, you probably like some history, so you're gonna love it even more. Carlos says, dude, you truly rock. Thanks, bro. My pleasure. This is William Lloyd Garrison. He sounds very familiar. Who is this guy? On the side, it says, my country is the world. My countrymen are all mankind. He sounds very familiar. Who's William Lloyd Garrison? I've heard that name before. I've heard that name before, but it doesn't say who he is. Felix, yeah, we're going to pass by the African Meeting House, most likely. Ala Renaissance says the seaport is extremely new and I heard it doesn't have a home feeling. I'm glad you mentioned that, Ala Renaissance. Watch my video last night. That's exactly how I felt. It seemed like maybe a nice place to visit during the daytime, especially if it's warmer weather. But it definitely felt cold, not just in the weather. It felt, it didn't quite have a organic liveliness to it yet. Things change, of course, over time. But I think it's just because of the nature of it being very new and pretty high end. So it doesn't seem like it has a variety of people hanging out there. Garrison was an abolitionist. Thank you. Watanabe. Oh, the same name as the actor, Ken Watanabe. Thank you so much for tuning in. So here we're still making our way. To Beacon Hill. I think we're only about 10 minutes away from Beacon Hill. Now we're getting very close. Thank you everyone for letting us know. William Lloyd Garrison was an abolitionist, which means a person who was against the institution of slavery and was actively fighting against it or working against dismantling it here in the U.S. during the 1700s and then the 1800s. This seems to be a memorial for the men who died, but where? They all died around 1972. What happened in 1972? Oh my God, a building collapsed. It says investigations revealed that the Vendome did not collapse because of the fire, but from structural weakness. There is the unknown in every fire. You do your job, follow the plan, still something can go wrong. Oh. How many firefighters died? We have a lot of names here. Let's read it from beginning to end. Oh, this is a little bit hard to read with all the sun. When the bells ring, we are all the same. We are all the team. We have one job to do. 2:40 p.m., firefighters arrive, finding smoke and flames coming from the 3rd and 4th floors. 2:35 p.m., there's smoke in the cafe of the Hotel Vendome, Commonwealth Avenue and Dartmouth Street. Workmen pull box 571. So it should be here in this corner. Which one's Vendome? Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. Should be this one because it looks very new. Oh, wow. Let's keep on reading. Our teamwork is everything. Your life depends on every other firefighter. You'll never forget this. 2:44 p.m. District 4 reports a working fire. At 4:46, a second fire alarm is struck. 3:02 p.m. a third fire alarm is struck. 3:06 p.m. another fire alarm is struck. And 5:20 p.m. the fire is contained. Companies start to make up, preparing to leave the building. And then what happens? 5:28 p.m. Without warning, 4 floors of the Vendome collapse, burying 25 firefighters. 25. 2 a.m. Firefighters search in the rubble until they are all accounted for. 9 firefighters are dead, 16 are injured. And as I mentioned before, it is revealed that the Vendome did not collapse because of the fire, but from structural weakness. May those 9 firefighters rest in peace. Wow. They gave their lives to save the people in the hotel. You know, 9/11 brought a lot of awareness to firefighters. Usually they were unsung heroes. There's been, of course, major events like great fires that they have helped through, but now we have firefighters battling the wildfires in California. I'm not entirely sure if they ended yet or not. And I think sometimes they don't get the credit that they deserve. And sometimes we have to remember that there's so many people who maintain our cities, who help us keep safe. There's firefighters, there's police, there's ambulance drivers, you know, and then there's of course the other unsung heroes, the people who maintain these buildings. This one has structural weakness, but there's people who are always constantly coming to the buildings, seeing if they're up to code and regulation. They're unsung heroes. Who knows how many of hotel vendors have been prevented by men who worked for the city government and were checking up if the building was up to code and spotted that something was wrong and the building had to fix it, or they were fined and the building had to fix it. Those are unsung heroes too, the people who maintain the water pipes and the people who maintain the electricity, the people who maintain those water sprinkling systems. If we didn't have a water system, we wouldn't have sprinkling systems. So, yeah, sometimes we gotta remember those unsung heroes. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new development. Not to make light of what we just talked about very quickly, but I do see a new bench. And this is a different bench. I think we just might need to have a second part for our bench review in this video. Here is a bench in memory of Reverend William Herbert Dewart and his wife, Elizabeth Haven Dewart, 1944. Time for a bench sitting. Oh yeah. Stone benches, they're really cool. This is a good bench. Oh yeah. Yeah, really comfy, really wide back, and kind of cool. So if you were here on a summer day, it will actually be perfect because it's kind of cold. In winter, probably not the best idea because it seems like it retains the cold, but really good bench. Oh yeah. All right, let's continue walking. It's a massive tour group. Bench Romano score, I would give this a solid 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. It's a nice bench. It's pretty cold, so that's why it gets a few points off. But a nice 7 out of 10 for the sitting standard, and it's the same score for all the other things. There's no bird poo, and also it's a nice atmosphere. Looks like you sit up correctly on that one. Yes, you do. You have a good ergonomic posture on that bench. A bench isn't just a bench. A bench is the life that passes through our eyes. Ariel Vera. You can quote me on that. So here we see the Heincak Tower. So we just went on a huge circle. And now we're getting to Beacon Hill. We're getting very close to Beacon Hill. They should put heaters on stone benches. That'll be nice. That'll be a really nice addition. Oh, there's a play area here. Cool, a little playground. Nicole says that bird poo might blend in better on a stone bench. This is how a playground looks like in Boston. Someone earlier asked, would I give my life of New York City to move to Boston? No. I love Boston. I love visiting it, but no. I would not give my life in New York City to live in Boston. It's a small city. It's a city that's nice for visiting. It might be very nice for living, depending on your tastes. But for me, I do love the fast-paced nature of a big city like New York. And as I mentioned many times, you see this glee on my face about Boston. Well, it reminds me a whole lot about London. And that's the city I would give up New York to live in for a few years. Sean says Boston is better. Yeah, well, everyone does have their tastes, and their and everyone's at different points in life. You know, I'm pretty young, so I still, and also I'm a filmmaker. I'm a creative. I'm an artist and a filmmaker. I love, you know, fast pace. I love having a lot of connections. I love meeting new people, and I love being in a fashionable city. But that's where I'm at in life. That might change in the future. I might have a taste for a smaller city in the future. I might have a taste for living out in the countryside. I might have a taste to move out into the mountains and become a monk. All right, that might not actually happen, but everyone does change in their lives. Looking to move to New York City. Any suggestions? I'm not the best person to ask that because I don't have too much experience living in different neighborhoods. I would recommend checking out the neighborhoods that are a little bit more vibrant nowadays with the pandemic. East Village, Bushwick, Park Slope. Depends on your price range. Park Slope is a good one. Prospect Heights. Search Brooklyn and Lower Manhattan and Northern Queens. Those are 3 areas I think you probably would like to focus on. So we are crossing the block soon. Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's actually cross over here. Street Easy is great for apartments. There's a great show on YouTube called Cash Jordan. Great for learning about apartments. In New York, Street Easy is great for learning about real estate in general in the US. Park Slope, can any normal person afford to live here? Well, depends on your price range. I do have people watching me at all different price ranges. If you can, you can. And it's a really cool place. If you can, I would do in a heartbeat. It's a nice neighborhood. This church is really cool. First church in Boston, 1630, that's what they say. But it's probably not the first church built. There's a new addition in the back. And look at this, whoa. This is fall heaven. Crunching leaves. '19th century architecture. Tree-lined streets, an old church. Wow. Todd, you're a New York City realtor. If anyone needs help, awesome. Todd, let us know what's your realty company. Brick streets. Ooh, this is heaven, ladies and gentlemen. If heaven were a street, it would be this one. But alas, we're going to Beacon Hill, where we might find a heavenlier place. Because the beauty has just begun on this tour. Did I go to Somerville? No. Aren't any suggestions in Somerville? No, I did not go. Love all the colors. Me too. Here's the residence from the backside. Yeah, usually don't do this Todd, but someone did ask about New York Realty, so let's share the love here in the community. Do plug your information. Here is Beacon Street. Love all the colors. Oh, amazing. Hello, Lori. Kay says a really beautiful area. It really is. Marlborough Street is your favorite in Boston. Yeah, I'm absolutely amazed by that street. So here's a museum, a house museum. It's called the Gibson House Museum in historic Back Bay. Second Empire style. This is a good question. If anyone knows this type of architecture style, being from New York, I would just call it brownstone, but there might be a more specific term for these ones. Let me know. There is some of these buildings do have some like French flourishes with the fire escapes, with the mansard roofs as well. Yeah. Wait, Mark says that the house museum we just passed, called the Gibson House, has fresh ocean water in the bathtub. Wow, Mark, that's so interesting. How is that possible? I'm so curious now. Hey! Good day, everyone. Loving the scenes from Guyana. And hello, AZ. Nice to see you here. Boston is a little bit prettier than New York. Some areas, yes, indeed they are. Boston is a very picturesque city. Very, very picturesque. So we're passing now in front of the public gardens. We're going across the street, dodging all this traffic. Has anyone ever played the video game Frogger? Let me know, because we need someone who's good at it to join me on these videos. Hey Alice, nice to see you. Hi, everyone. Let me know where we're watching from. We have a lot of people tuning in. The lights here never change in Boston. They stay permanently red. Hence, Bostonians have to be expert Frogger players. POV says nearly 300 people watching. Indeed they are. Yeah. Welcome everyone. Hey Vasilios from Greece. Welcome. I can't wait to go to Greece. Here we're coming across Beaver Street and we're going into Beacon Hill. Very beautiful is Boston. Oh yes, we're passing through the most beautiful areas of Boston, I think. A lot of guidebooks and videos say the same thing. This is the two most beautiful neighborhoods of Boston. The State House is coming up, yes. We're not going to pass the State House. You gotta watch my other video because that will be a detour. But you can see my other video about the State House, which is the Freedom Tour video, Freedom Trail video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back in the heyday of sitcoms, there was a show that wasn't so popular the first few years. It was getting off the tail of a popular show called Taxi with Danny DeVito and Christopher Lloyd and a few other actors that soon became famous on their own right. And that show that followed Taxi in those first few years was Cheers. Cheers is a place where you go where everyone knows your name. And I'll show you how it looks like inside. Let's pop up the video that I took. So this is how it looks inside. It's not exactly like the show. It's the original pub that used to be here. The recreation is in the Quincy Market area. So I'll play with that one more time for people who missed it. That's how the pub looks like inside. Shot earlier this morning. No, you could go right ahead. Yeah. So here, established in 1895, so very, very old pub as well. And the pub and patio. And of course, people are drinking their Sam Adams and everything. And it's right by this historic hotel, the Hampshire House. Or historic guest house, maybe. So I used to not, when I tried watching Cheers, I wasn't really a fan of it. And let me continue walking through Beacon Hill. I also did not like Frasier when I was a little kid. I did not get the humor at all. But again, I think that was the nature of me being little. And Frasier tended to have like very kind of dry humor. And Cheers talked about kind of like adult topics, but you know, in a wholesome way. Frasier is awesome. I thought the swan boats weren't happening this year. No, I don't think the swan boats are running. They are not running, as far as I know. I could take a peek. Let's take a peek before we get into Beacon Hill. Oh, so much traffic here. What would the similarities of London and Boston be? The similarities of London and Boston is mostly in the aesthetics and the walkability of the city. So New York is super walkable, but it doesn't have these like curvy, winding streets. Not that much, you know. There's only a few neighborhoods that has it, like the West Village and Financial District. All right, let me cross the street so I can show you the public gardens. Rosa says, I always do an awesome job. Oh, I'm so glad, Rosa. Gracias por mirando. Thank you so much for watching. I think they put the swan boats away after Labor Day. Yeah, no more swan boats. My heart goes to both New York City and Boston, my kid's birthplace and race. Oh, cool, Rosa. And Cynthia says, oh, Cynthia was recalling a quote from that particular episode where Woody Harrelson says hello to the waitress character. And he says, oh, hello, ma'am. And she's like, ma'am, what the hell is that supposed to mean? That was a very funny exchange. And do they put out garbage on the streets? No. Here in Boston, there are alleyways, and that's where they place the garbage. And hence, you won't see garbage bags out on the street like New York. The reason New York has garbage out on the street is because there's no alleyways. And also there's no system like other European cities where they put garbage either in huge containers like in Rome or in underground receptacles like in the Netherlands. Okay, good. Paris also has like both, a combination of both. So, or a combination of actually all three. All right, now we are on Charles Street. So we're gonna go up Charles Street and then zigzag through Beacon Hill. So this is Beacon Hill. This was one of the 3 hills in this area of Boston, leading to the very first name of Boston, Trimount. But Trimount throughout the years ended up being changed to Tremont. And that's why we have Tremont Street. I think it's down this way. Beacon Hill was one of the tallest hills. And when the Puritans came here, they believed that this town, this new city, was going to be a beacon for hope, for purity of the Christian faith here in the New World. And hence, it was a beacon hill. And on top, on this hill, there was a beacon, a literal beacon, that would alert people of any type of disaster or war or attack. The beacon no longer became too useful, and Charles Bullfinch, the head architect of Boston during the 1700s and early 1800s, ended up building a memorial on it. And Trimont turned into Tremont. Yes, it did. Trimont turned into Tremont. I'm not entirely sure why linguistically it turned into Tremont. If anyone knows what happened there. But similar to how, words in English change. We took out the U in color and labor and glamour in other words, for example. So let me show you. First, Charles Bullfinch. Charles Bullfinch's vision. I'll find a photo of him. Depiction. Where do I have good old Charles Bullfinch? Oh, I think, was this Charles Bullfinch? Uh-oh. I've covered so many historical paintings. I forgot who was who. They all look the same. I don't think this was Charles Bullfinch. Was he? He was definitely balding. This might be Charles Bullfinch. Please forgive me for not remembering exactly, because I have a few historical paintings and a few of them look very similar to each other. But nonetheless, someone actually earlier mentioned that this restaurant was very popular, like Todd English. So Charles Street is a very popular area for food or for little tiny shops. Look at this gorgeous shop. Oh, wow. I think that was John Quincy Adams, so my mistake. I don't have a photo of a painting of Charles Bullfinch, but I will show you the beacon that I do have. So this is how the hill looked like. We have the State House, which is this way, right behind all these mansions. If we go a little bit further up the hill, we'll end up seeing it. That was the State House, and this is the hill, or we're about to come onto the hill very soon. The thing on top over here, this memorial was built by Charles Bullfinch. But Charles Bullfinch had a vision after they started excavating the hill and transforming it. He wanted to make this to the high-end neighborhood of mansions in Boston. That quite didn't pan out. There are mansions around here, which we're going to see, but it needed to be much more dense, because Boston, as I mentioned, let's go back and look at it in the 1700s. It looks like this. It's a tiny little area. It's about the size of 2 Central Parks. There wasn't that much space. That's why the Back Bay had to be constructed, which we passed by earlier. And we can see the hill right there on the top. And it became much more dense, but with that Bullfinch type architecture, which we're going to see all around us. Now that Bullfinch Memorial is where I started my Freedom Trail video at the beginning of this journey, and I will point it out right now, which is right here. They recreated it The original was destroyed, but they recreated it right behind the State House, where I started my earlier video. So you can check that out. All right, now let's enjoy Beacon Hill. Now that we know everything about Beacon Hill, everything. I cover literally everything. No, I'm joking. There's so much more to learn, but sometimes these stories are much more tinier and more specific, so it takes way more time to research them. So I recommend taking a tour here. There might be many tour guides. I think Mark mentioned he's a tour guide for LGBT history here. So, and there's also the park rangers do the tour of Black history, African American history here. So there's a lot of cool things to visit here. But for now, let's enjoy Beacon Hill. You can visit the Boston Islands by ferry. Yes, I can. I wish I had time. I saw pictures of Hingham. Am I pronouncing that correctly? It looked very beautiful. And I might come back to the city just to visit more of these other areas surrounding it. Is Mark, who does the tours, in the chat? Mark is watching via Facebook, yeah. So Mark, if you have any information of Beacon Hill as we're walking through, please let us know. Good afternoon, Donna from Brooklyn. You're Azraelia on YouTube. Oh, your real name is Donna. Cool. I have a lot of Donnas watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. However, a wonderful fellow urbanist, Monica from Argentina, said that this was one of her favorite bakeries, Tat. I'm not entirely sure how it's pronounced. It might be just pronounced Tat, or it might be pronounced Tate. Let me know if anyone knows how it's pronounced. It's, I think it's Moroccan fused. And they have really interesting dishes and pastries. So let's go and try a pastry, shall we? Who wants a pastry from Tat? I've already had it a few times. It's the most unique pastries in Boston. So this is going to be, I think, the first mukbang. And maybe if we bump into something beautiful towards the end, maybe there'll be a second one. But let's go for at least one type of food here in this journey. All right, everyone, let's go to Tat. Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Beautiful pastries.
Thanks.
What do you recommend? What's very popular here?
The morning buns are pretty popular. The lemon drizzle cake is very popular.
Oh, interesting. Lemon drizzle cake.
The flatbreads, I really love the flatbreads.
Interesting. Okay, so I'll have peas and ricotta flatbread. And let me see what else. I'll try the pistachio croissant and espresso, please. Actually, I'll have iced coffee instead. Iced coffee instead. Cold brew. Thank you.
Yep, one iced coffee?
Yeah, cold brew, yeah.
Small or large?
Small.
Alright. And can I get a phone number for your order?
Yes, 917-589-8725.
8725. Yeah, like. Alright, so it's $17.13. Fabulous. Would you like to leave a 10-minute fee?
Yes, $1.
Thank you. Alright, take your card and I need to get a text when everything's ready. You can take it up right outside that window.
Awesome, thank you. they announce your name, so I gave something else. All right, let's wait for it. I just gave us something random, so hopefully they yell out the name. Yeah, that was insanely loud. Insanely loud. And bakeries are like that, but the structure of the building, I couldn't show it too much, but it's very high ceilings. And every sound escapes for someone speaking, so all you hear is the noise from the bakery or whatever the machinery is happening. And that's why it was extremely loud. So yeah. So let's wait. Oh. So have you ever done a history of food? Asked April. April, yeah, I've done many histories of food. Many different versions of it. So I've done basically anything in any major city. I've done bagels and hot dogs and pizza in New York City. I've done coffee. I've done basically anything in New York City that is related to history of food.